Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Kemi, and I'm here to talk about Beyond the Gates Season 2, Episode 39. Now, before we begin, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your post notifications so you'll know whenever I post. All right, so we start the episode off with Nicole running into Ted, and Ted lets her know that he saw the interview, and then he asks, when did Nicole decide to go public? And she tells him like, you're not a part of the inner circle no more, so you don't get a play by play. So, and he said, oh, that's funny because when you guys needed me, y'all called me. And she was just like, yeah, that was convenience, that wasn't a privilege. And he was just like, well, he's just glad that he doesn't have to whisper about it anymore. And she's just like, who you whispering to? And he was just like Tyrell and Andre, and he talks about how they were talking about it and they had to use they said it was Aunt May or whatever. And so she apologizes to him, and she apologizes for snapping, and then she tells him that that Anita had a fall, like a stumble at the country club, and people were talking, so it was like low key her hand was forced or whatever. And he was just like, oh, was it, it was dehydration? And they started talking about that or whatever. And then they start talking about how it's been a year since what happened with Laura. And so he asked how is Kat taking it? And she's just like, the only way that Kat can take it or whatever. And she says, they talk about how Kat never lets things go. And Ted wants to know if she's holding this vendetta um, for Laura or against the Leslie, or something like that. And Nicole tells him it's like Loki, it's both. Like she ain't gonna let up off of it because it is Leslie who did it to Laura. So she talks about how she says the person who tried to unalive her never paid for it, and even though Nicole and Laura have made peace with it, Kat ain't. He says, yeah, he says Eva and Leslie have become a lightning rod for Kat, and she hurls every insult, every insecurity, every fear. She hurls it at them. And Nicole says, some of it's misplaced. Um, and then she says, Kat is going through a rough phase, and she lists all the things that are going on with Kat right now, and um, and that's why Kat is holding on to this or whatever, I guess. But then she tells him, she's glad that they can be able to have a conversation, like they're at a better place where they can have a conversation like this, because he had mentioned how one of the things that Kat is dealing with is the fact that both of her parents have moved on or whatever. But again, she's glad that they're in this place that they can talk, and they're always going to be a team when it comes to their kids, and that's a bond that even Leslie can't break. So we see Kat again. We do a replay of Kat. Well, no, it wasn't a replay. Kat is telling Leslie that she's going to expose them. Um, Leslie is laughing at her because she's just like, everybody else has moved on. You need to get on the bandwagon as well. She makes a remark about Nicole being naughty, Nikki, and dating two people. Eve tells her, Eva is just telling her, like, you don't want to do this, like, let's not do this. But Leslie continues to go in on her, and Kat tells her, like, girl, mention my mama again and see what's gonna happen. Leslie is talking about she glad that Nicole then found her freak flag. Too bad she couldn't have found it she couldn't have found it sooner, otherwise Ted wouldn't have came looking for her. And Eva is just like, girl, that's enough. Like, what are you doing? And then Leslie again continues. Um she continues. She says the cops looked at her and they didn't find nothing. And then Kat is just like, that's because your hood rat daughter helped destroy the evidence or whatever. And she can't wait till karma comes and drags her by her wigs and serves her what she deserves. But before this, she did tell her, she was just like, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to rile me up so that I can say something and then turn around and be the victim, but I'm not going to let you do that this time. So after Kat tells her, she hopes karma comes and get her, she walks out. And as she's walking out, she runs into Izaiah, and she's telling Izaiah, I warned you, when this comes back and bites you in the face, in the butt, don't come crying to me. So Izaiah goes and sits with Leslie and Eva, and he asks, like, what happened or whatever. So Eva, like, she low-key tells him or whatever. Oh yeah, she tells him or whatever, and he says it's never a dull moment with you and your mom or whatever. Leslie gets up and says, and she's just like, yeah, it's never a dull moment. We brought it here, like, in this board community or something like that or whatever. And he's just like, your mama is wild. And she was just like, yeah, so and she was just like, yeah, and protective. So she's just like, I'm glad we're having this sit down. She wants to know what Izaiah's intentions are for her daughter. Eva was just like, he came here to have lunch, to have coffee with me. He did not come here to talk to you, so please stop. Leslie continues to grill him. She's making inappropriate remarks to him, and it's just like, so she plays up all three of their rough backgrounds, and that's what they have in common, and they pulled it out of the gutter, and now they're where they are. She wants to make sure that he's going to treat Eva right, and because that's what she deserves. And he's just like, yeah, of course, I gonna treat her right or whatever. So Leslie gets up to leave, and as she's leaving, she's doing the put a ring on it dance behind his back, and he turns around and sees her, and he's just like, it's kind of soon. Like, he has that look on his face. And then she's just like, oh, just, she says something, and then she touches him, and then she's just like, oh my God. And Eva's just like, and it's like, ugh. Girl, Leslie. Yuck. It's like, yuck. So Eva buys him a beer, and she apologizes to him for her mama. He's telling her, it's cool. He starts talking about he doesn't want them to be holding back anything. He wants them to tell each other everything, because that's what happened, how it was with his last relationship. He's saying, he wants to make sure that they're not holding things back from each other. And she's just like, well, is it because you may have ghosts from your past? And she was just like, he was like, yeah, my last relationship, I used to always ask her about stuff, and she wouldn't tell me anything. And then after a while, I just stopped asking. And then I looked up, and we were just further apart. So I don't want that to happen to us. I want us to be able, I want us to be, what he say? He wants them to be in a place where they can tell each other's secrets. And she has a flashback to her asking Leslie, did she do what she did to Laura? And Leslie admitting, yeah, she did it for them or whatever. So he pulls her back, and he was just like, where'd you go? And she's just like, oh, nowhere. And she was just like, she's just like, I'm gonna be honest, you're the best guy I've ever had. And then they kiss or whatever. And then they kiss or whatever. So this scene right here also made me be like, maybe he is an undercover FBI agent, because you sure were asking her to tell you a lot of secrets. So it's just like, So when Leslie left, she ran to Ted. And Ted was just like, girl, what do you want? And she starts doing another one of her soliloquies. And he was just like, girl, I don't have time for none of your games. What do you want? If you come in here to say anything about Kat, and she starts talking about Kat, and he was just like, that's my daughter. Watch your mouth. And it was just like, finally, you said something. But honestly, you should have kicked her out of your office. Like, why you still have, like, you don't need to have conversations with her regarding your daughter. Y'all didn't grow up raising this girl together. Y'all don't need to co-parent her. She's grown now, but you continue to let her come into your space, and that is why she is going to continue to ruin things for you. But child, whatever. So she basically tells him he needs to get to know Isaiah, because she knows that that's gonna be her future, their future son-in-law. And he's just like, but they just started dating, and she's just like, I know these things, they're gonna get engaged soon, da da da, all this other stuff. And it's just like, child, what? But anyways, so he calls Eva to get Isaiah's number, and this is when they're still at OG. So she gives the phone to Isaiah, and Ted says, let's get together the next day or whatever. Um we see uh Leslie and Nicole. I not gonna lie, I can't remember what they talked about. I didn't really too much care what they talked about. It was they were talking about um Nicole taking Vanessa's advice and dating the two guys, and what Nicole ended up doing for Galentine's, and how she invited Carlton out on a date, but he turned her down, and she feels like he went to see the play already with somebody, and she spent the whole day thinking about who that somebody was, and she realized that she doesn't want to share him, but she wants to be shared or whatever. um all this other stuff. So Vanessa has to leave because she has to meet Kat to show her some places. And Nicole was just like, oh well, Kat never told me that she was moving or whatever. So she's back at the hospital. She's leaving a message for um Kat to call her, because she's thinking that she's moving in with Tomas or whatever. Here come Leslie rolling up on her, and Leslie is calling her naughty Nikki, and her dating these two men or whatever. Um, um, what she say? She makes some digs about her dating two people. Nicole tries to leave, but Leslie continues to be a nuisance, and she says some things. So Nicole makes some digs at her, and she basically calls her deranged. And Leslie was just like, "Oh, a psychiatrist shouldn't be whatever she is, shouldn't be saying stuff like that." And she was just like, "Take that up with Naughty Nikki, because she the one that said it," and walked away. I said, "Okay, finally we let Leslie. I mean, this is the second time they didn't let Nicole have the last word. Finally." We see Smitty. He's at the club, and he meets his one of his friends. It's a doctor. Her name is Dr. Monica. She is a oncologist at MD Anderson in Houston. Hey, I was wondering when they was gonna say something, because Houston is known for the MD Anderson Cancer Center. So I was waiting on when they was gonna say we gonna get in touch with somebody in Houston for Anita. So this is a friend. We see Naomi. She's also at the club. She's about to meet a client. She gets out her burner phone. She wants to send a message to Jacob, but she decides not to. She runs into them. They explain how they know each other. This was before Martin and Smitty got married. They were dating, and he had a piece, and he spoke with Monica about it, and they kept in touch or whatever. Martin calls Smitty, and he says, "I'm gonna take this," so he leaves. And Monica is talking to Naomi about she's talking to her about Anita and what Anita's going through. And then she's checking on her and saying, this doesn't just affect Anita, it does affect the family. And, if you ever need anything, any questions or anything like that, I'm here. I'm, whatever. So, she gives her some words of encouragement, and they exchange numbers. Um, uh Naomi's client comes, so she leaves. And Jacob, because Jacob has come back at this time, and so Jacob is saying that he's worried about Naomi because he knows what Jacob is doing and that Jacob isn't at home, so he's worried about her or whatever. So they hug and leave, and Naomi and Jacob, I mean Smitty, run into each other in the lobby, and he asks her, are you good? And she'll just like, yeah, I'm gonna be good. And they hug, and then they go about their way. Um, then we see Chelsea and Kat. So Kat, she meets Chelsea at Uptown, and she's complaining about Leslie, and Chelsea isn't paying attention. So Kat calls her out, and Chelsea tells her like, you need to relax, you need to breathe, they're not thinking about you. You being like this is not cute or whatever. So Kat is just like, okay, fine. So she breathes, relax. And now Chelsea wants to talk about the wedding. And she's she wants to talk about the wedding, but Kat isn't in the mood, and Chelsea gets upset, and she'll just like, fine, we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. And Kat is just like, well, you don't want to talk about what I want to talk about, so. And she'll just like, no, we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. So she'll just like, okay, well then, I'm moving or whatever. So Chelsea gets mad, and she's just like, um, why are you Chelsea tells her like, she's doing the most, and she tells her that nothing is changing. And then Kat is just like, I'm just being realistic. Like, that's the next step. Like, you're getting married. So the next step is for either she gonna move in here with us, or I'm gonna move out. So I'm just being realistic, and I'm getting ahead of it. Um, Chelsea wants to know like why she's doing this, and then Kat brings up Copenhagen and how she just sprung that on her. So like how she sprung it on her, and she blindsided her, and so Chelsea is just like, oh, so you're punishing me, that's why you're doing this or whatever. And Kat is just like, no, I'm not punishing you, I don't resent you, I like I love y'all's relationship, I love Madison. um what she does resent is the fact that Chelsea is acting like their lives aren't going in different directions. So then Chelsea says she's her number one cousin, and she isn't ready for Kat to dip. And Kat wants to know why is it okay for her to level up, for Chelsea to level up, but she can't level up. Um, and Chelsea says, well, I know that you're in love with Tomas or whatever, but like, is this what's, next? And and Kat is just like, no, I'm not moving in with him. I'm moving out on my own. And then Chelsea is just like, oh, so maybe it's because you don't want to be around us. And she was just like, I'm not. Kat was like, I'm not jealous. And Chelsea's just like, well, I'm not saying that, but I'm not, that's not what I said. But maybe it is hard for you to be around us or whatever. Um, Chelsea says Kat is giving guilty, and Kat tells her that her ego is overinflated. Chelsea wants them to be real. And Kat says, well, maybe I want some space. And that's when Vanessa shows up, and she asks her if she's ready to she asked, oh, do you want me to reschedule? And she was just like, Kat was just like, no. And Chelsea was just like, reschedule what? She was just like, I'm about to go look at some condos, I wanted to ask you to come with me, but with the way that you acting, I don't want you to come. And so Chelsea tells her, well, you need to check yourself. And she'll just like right back at you. And she'll just like, she turns to Vanessa, and she'll just like, can you show me multiple condos, and are any of them available? Because I want to leave ASAP. So that's not how the episode ends, but that's about the gist of the episode. I will say, watching this scene, it was real stupid. Them arguing, fighting was real stupid. Talked about it on Twitter with a bunch of different people, and from how I initially saw it, it was just like, this is stupid. The second, third time that I watch it, it's still really stupid. But I will say, Kat Chelsea is selfish. Everything always has to be about her. The fact that she told Kat, I don't want I'm not ready for you to leave. as if it's her choice on what Kat wants to do. Kat is also, and Chelsea is also impulsive. Kat is also impulsive. Kat is not paying attention to what she needs to be paying attention to. Kat, me personally, I don't see what's wrong in Kat wanting to move out. Maybe she shouldn't be wanting to move out so soon, but again, I still don't understand what's wrong with her moving out now or later. In the long run, in the at the end of the day, Kat is gonna have to leave regardless. One of them is gonna have to leave. Either Kat's gonna leave or Chelsea's gonna leave, but they're no longer gonna be living together because Chelsea is getting married. Why it's an issue that Kat wants to do it now as opposed to waiting, I don't get it. But this is where we are. Again, this whole fight thing was stupid. Um, I don't like the way that Chelsea never listens, never lets Kat vent for real, for real. Like she'll let her vent for a little bit, but she'll always have this look on her face like, girl, why are we talking about this? But Kat's never done that to her regarding Haley. In fact, Kat is 10 toes down behind her and she'll make remarks at Haley. Kat still don't like Bill because of what he did to that family. But Chelsea is not giving her that same grace, and I don't like it. No one is giving Kat any grace for her feelings regarding this. Chelsea especially should give her grace for the fact that she doesn't like this girl because she knows what happened with um Eva and Tomas. But she's act and I really hate that I really hate that Kat went back to this man because at the end of the day, everyone is always going to say, well, you're still with him. So why are you mad at Eva? And it's just like, I don't care. I don't want her to be with Tomas, but I don't care if she ends up marrying Tomas. Her having smoke for Eva because of what she did with Tomas is perfectly fine because at the end of the day, Eva knew who Kat was to her, and she went out of her way to make this connection with this man just to get under Kat's skin. It is not Kat's fault that you went out of your way, Eva, to get under Kat's skin with this man and ended up falling for him. And then you decided that you would be better for him than Kat. And then you got your face cracked multiple times behind that, but then have the nerve to be mad at Kat for talking to Izaiah, but you can talk to Tomas because y'all are friends. No, but that's not this episode. But yeah, so that was the episode. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your post notifications. Get down in the comments. Tell me what you guys thought of this episode, and I will see you guys in the next one.